Hey everybody, I was asked to do a video on what to look for when you're wanting to buy a cow. Like, you've finally, you've talked it over, you've made the decision that yes, you're ready to take on the responsibility of a milk cow, or just a cow in general. Question is, how do you know? And I know the first cow that we got was very dangerous. So we were kind of thrown into the deep end of the pool. And it's kind of our mission through these videos to make it so that all of you don't have to go through what we went through. Hi, Tanky boy. Tanky Wonkers. Hi, sweetie. Our beef steer Tank is now finally with the little boys, so he's able to get grain. And he's not super happy about that. But I think what he's going to discover is that he gets a whole lot more attention and grain now being with the little boys. Well, are you going to do beef, or are you going to do milk, or are you going to do a dual purpose? You've seen me milk my cows. You've seen me work with my cows a bunch. But this is not what I started off with. I started off with a mutt, basically just a mutt cow. And I started off with a cow that had never had a baby before. She was a heifer. She came to me as a kind of a dual purpose. That was the goal, dual purpose cow. But we didn't know anything about how to milk a cow. Dual purpose is really nice because if you don't know how to milk and you've got the calf, you don't really have to worry too awfully much about mastitis because they're generally not going to be a huge producer. So I would highly recommend, make sure, but first thing you start off with is pasture. Do you have enough pasture? I would recommend whatever you've got, have your pastures broken up so that one section gets to rest for at least 21 days. And that's really important. 21 days is kind of the point as to how you're going to know if your pasture area is growing back. And the parasite load then runs its full cycle and is gone away, reduced a whole bunch. The other thing to remember is when you're rotating pastures, you actually want them in a small enough area so that they're not just picking the nice stuff that they really like and then leaving all the rest of the stuff and then acting like they need to go to someplace else. Have them in a small enough area so that they eat everything that they should. Then they don't come back to that area until you've got new blades of grass at least 6 inches tall. Okay, not just 1 or 2, but a lot. That's how you know your pasture is ready to sustain your cow grazing again. So break up, we've got our pasture area broken up into 6 small pasture areas. Our entire pasture field is about 1.5 acres, and it's supporting a lot of cows. And that's very hard for us. But just because that's what we do doesn't mean, that's what you need to do. Just keep in mind you're looking for the grass to grow back about 6 inches, not with a chewed off top. New blades of grass, 6 inches or more. That's how you know your pasture's ready for cows to come back and graze again. The other thing you're going to want to know is how big of a cow do you want? Okay, if you're going to get a large cow, they're going to eat a lot. If you get a smaller cow, they're not going to eat as much. So if you only have a couple of acres, I would recommend Dexter because they're very good for forage. They're not picky on what they eat. They don't need grain. Dexters are amazing. They produce good beef. I don't recommend them for milking unless they're trained to milk. I just don't really recommend that. Sorry, my Dexter friends out there. I don't recommend the Dexters for milking. The Dexters are a wonderful breed because they still have a lot of their, excuse me, independent ancient heritage traits left over, which means their milk is gonna feed their baby. If the baby's taken away, they dry up. And a lot of them will dry up even if you are milking them because they know you are not baby. So if you try to milk them, they will shut it off. That's why I don't not all of them are like that. But that's why I don't recommend the Dexters, because unless you're getting from a breeder that typically gets good milk every day from that cow, regardless of whether she's feeding a calf or not, I just don't recommend them. Now, that being said, Dexters produce amazing beef. You're really not going to get better beef than from a Dexter. Okay, so they're great for beef. They're small. Typically, they're only going to be about maybe this tall. And I'm 5'2". So, basically chest level for me. That's wonderful. On 1 acre, you could easily support 3 or 4 Dexters. Okay? Whereas with like a Jersey or a Holstein or an Angus, you might be able to get away with 1. Okay, but let's talk about milk. I don't recommend the Holstein. I don't recommend typically a Guernsey. However, truth be told, I'm actually working to try to get a Guernsey here, but that's a different story. I would recommend a Jersey, a small Jersey. My Jerseys are about 48 inches. My small one is 46 inches. So, they're only about this big. They're fairly small. And then my big girl is 53 inches. Now, you look for the hook bone. The part of their hip that kind of sticks out real pointy, that's the hook bone. Look it up on Google. That's where you measure from the top of that to the floor. That's how you measure the height of your Jersey. Any cow, really, basically. It's not from the shoulders like you would for a horse. It's from the hip bones, the hook specifically. So now let's talk about how much milk are you looking for. In my family, we do herd shares, and just personally for our family, we'll drink 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons every day. That's a lot of milk. And typically, and that's not even including cooking, making yogurt, making cheese, and then feeding my animals, because all of my animals get to enjoy our milk too. So because we have a herd share operation, we really appreciate about 15 gallons per day. 8 gallons, we start to get a little worried because we're barely meeting quota at that point. But 10 to 15 gallons is okay for us. So it just really depends on how much milk you need for your family. But then also remember, you're going to have some months that the cow is not going to be producing milk. If you have 1 milk cow, she is only going to be producing well for you at about 2 months after she's had her baby, because the first part you're feeding the calf and you're trying to feed your family, trying to get that colostrum out, learning process. I scrap the first month as far as mentally figuring in how much milk I'm going to get, because it just doesn't count. All right, second month, okay, we're starting to get comfortable with the routine, figuring things out, and starting to anticipate each other a little bit better. But then you dry her off 2 months before she's due to calve again. That's why it's important to know if she's bred. Okay, so here's the big question. How are you going to make sure that your cow is bred? If you're a first-time cow owner, do not get one of those. Okay, just don't do it. Don't do it. Like, I don't care how strong you are, guys. Don't do it. Do not get one of those. That being said, okay, I don't like the way you're looking. Yeah, I see that look in your eye. I don't like how you're looking, so no. Okay, just had to close up Tank because he was kind of, you'll figure out your cows, he was giving me the eye that just said, I'm going to jump over this door now. And he could do it. All right, we do have a bull. I don't recommend you get a bull. But that being said, we're not first-time cow owners. And we took almost a year of working with crazy cows that wanted to kill us before we got a bull. We found a family that trains very calm, docile, gentle bulls. We work with her. She's our mentor when it comes to working with bulls. She actually recommended this guy for us, and we adore him, and you know, I would love to keep him forever. He's just the best. He is a Dexter bull. Typically, if you have to have a bull on your property, typically a Dexter bull is going to be calm and gentle. That being said, he is still a bull and can be dangerous and can decide he wants to kill you one day. And I know some of you guys out there have actually experienced that. Do not get a Jersey bull. I'm not saying for everybody don't get a Jersey bull. Okay, please don't go there with me. First time cow owners, don't get a Jersey bull, okay? Please just don't do it. I know there are some great ones out there, and I'm not trying to, throw them all to the wolves or whatever. I'm just trying to keep you safe. I'm trying to not say that, oh yeah, go get a bull, you'll love it, ride them, whatever, it's a great time. Because somebody will die. Don't do it, okay? This guy could kill me, no problem. He doesn't want to. He's bred to be very docile, very gentle. He's only 38 inches tall. He's real tiny. And he's real super sweet. He is a bull. That being said, though, he keeps my girls pregnant. And I'm very thankful for that. Our very first Jerseys, we had an AI, artificial insemination technician come out to my farm and get them bred that way. One of them took, the other one didn't. And that's very frustrating because you're paying a technician to come out to your farm to AI your cows, make sure that they're getting bred. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's why we chose to have a bull. For your first time, just get a cow in milk, older, trained to milk, because if she's an older cow, say like 5 to 7 years old, that's gold. Okay, she is worth her weight in platinum. Okay, you're just not going to find a better cow. 5 to 7 years old, hand milked and machine milked. With or without food in the stanchion, with or without being tied. That's perfect. Now, if you can find one that age range who will also adopt calves, do not ever sell her. All right? Ideally, you want to get one that's about 5 to 7 years old, already bred, and a vet paper to, confirm that she was bred. And then also in milk with a calf beside her, you're basically getting a 3-for-1. Remember, cows should never be alone. So if you're going to get a cow, make sure she has a friend. Her calf, a sister, a steer that you can then, beef out later. That's great, just never alone. All right, now let's talk about something that's very, very important when you're looking for a cow. Let's talk disease. I cannot stress this enough. Please do not buy a cow that you have not seen the vet certification for being disease-free. I'm going to just mention a couple of the diseases, and then if you want to go further, that's fine. You are going to spend more money to get a cow that does not have disease, but guys, please, don't do this to yourself, okay? Don't just buy a cow because I just had a good feeling about her. The disease known as Johne's, Johnes, Johne's. That is a silent cow killer. That cow will not survive. There has not been any worldwide, there's been tons of studies about Johne's. No one's ever found a cure for it. I know there's going to be people that are going to say, oh, well, you just give them lots of, garlic or whatever. Guys, seriously, just don't risk it. Johne's is, do your research on it, but it's been found that Johne's will actually hibernate in the soil, in the manure of an infected cow for upwards of possibly 10 years. that microorganism is going to hibernate on your soil, no matter what the temperature of the sunshine, no matter how cold temperatures you have for freezing, that microorganism is going to survive. And when another ruminant, whether it be a goat or a sheep or a cow, walks onto your property, they're going to pick it up. The thing is, with Johne's, it doesn't show up until the cow is, some people will say, about 2 years old. I still test until my cows are between 4 and 5 years old. If they're still showing negative, I don't worry about it as much. The goal is having a closed herd. That means that you're not bringing on any other cow from any other location. I don't send my cows to the fair because I don't want their hooves stepping in something else that another cow has from another farm and then bringing it back to my farm, and now it's here permanently. Just not a good idea. All right? And then if I have people coming to my farm that have cows, they don't walk in with my cows. And I ask them to wear a different pair of shoes to my farm that other than what they have had on their farm. And if I'm going to somebody else's farm, I will wear a pair of shoes that has never been out to my barn, and then I will throw those shoes away. Yeah, I really will, guys. It's that serious. Johne's, deadly killer. Basically, your cow will starve to death and then have runny diarrhea, and any other animal that walks in that is going to pick it up. It doesn't mean every animal will pick it up. It just means you're putting your other cows at risk. And if it gets super bad, you can't even beef them out because now it's in the muscle. Best way to test for it, test for blood. Also test stool samples. Those are the two most important ways to test for Johne's. Have that done before you even go and see the cow. Because you don't need to be walking there, picking something up, and then bringing it back to your home. Now you're going to go find another cow. Be biosecurity. Make that just the thing for you on your farm. Protect your farm. Okay, that's Johne's, and I cannot be serious enough about that. The other one is bovine leukemia virus, BLV. That one's another big one. That one is spread through blood. There's been some research that indicates it could link to breast cancer in humans who drink the milk of cows infected with BLV. There's some, it's my neighbor, okay. There's some question whether or not that's even legit. Regardless, 5% of the animals that actually have bovine leukemia virus will actually come down with symptoms. That's why it's important to test with the blood. These tests are not expensive. I think when a vet comes out to run blood work for me, which I only do once a year, but I do it every year, it's going to cost me about $150, and we're testing 3 cows. All right. Once your cows have been tested, I wonder if my bull is. Hey! No! You're not going to do that. My bull is actually pushing on the door. See? Don't get a bull. It wouldn't take much for him to break that door open, and I realize that. I'm spending about $150. Hey! Go! Go on. Hopefully that'll keep him in line. Another thing I want to talk about is feed. Again, that just depends on your genetics. If you're getting a Jersey that's a high producer, you're going to be looking at some needing to get some feed for your cow. There's a formula out there. It's so many pounds of dairy ration per gallon of feed or milk that she produces. You want to make sure that the protein ratio is appropriate for your dairy cow. 16% to 20-some% is good. Sometimes you can find dairy ration, sometimes you can't. It really depends on your location. And I know that for a couple of my Jerseys, I don't have to give them grain. As a matter of fact, they do better if they don't get grain. They also don't produce as much milk. So there's the trade-off. More feed, more milk. Daisy comes from Commercial Dairy Genetics. Alright, so I knew when I got her, she was going to be grain heavy. She was going to need grain. And she always looks skinny, and it's always hard for me to keep her looking nice and healthy. Jerseys, dairy animals are always going to look more skinny than beef. Please don't think that your Jersey is supposed to look like an Angus. She's not. She's going to look bony. Her hip bones are going to stick out. Yes, you might see 1 or 2, maybe 3 of her long ribs around her side. That's normal. Let's talk about feed though. When you're feeding your Jersey, you're looking for that triangle right in front of her hook bone on the left side. It should be nice and smooth and full. If it's sunk in, then that's her rumen. Okay, that's where she's eating. If it's sunk in a whole bunch, she's hungry. Okay, so remember, when you're standing at the back of the cow looking at them, and Jersey cows, we spend a lot of time looking at their backside. I mean, it's a dairy cow, it's just kind of what we do. It's kind of weird, I know, but it's life on the dairy farm. Right side, if she's nice and round on her right side, that's where she's going to carry her baby. So right rugrat, left lunch. So you look at the triangle on her right side. If it's full, that could mean anything. It's not really what we're looking at as far as feed goes. Left triangle, that's what we're looking at to find out if her feed intake is appropriate. Grazing's fantastic. That's wonderful. They do need hay, access to hay, because they need that long stemmy stuff to give them good fiber, coarse material in their rumen to keep it running well. Especially if you're grain feeding them, you know, they just need that. Alright, so let's also talk about alfalfa as part of the feed. Alfalfa, do not feed that to your cow during her dry off period. Just due to milk fever, just not a good idea. You can do some study on high calcium rich foods during the dry off. It can lead to milk fever when she has her calf. It's just a great big huge amount of stuff. Anyway, alfalfa is very important after they calve, right after they calve. So make sure you've got a good source for good healthy alfalfa. And then that's just really important. Alfalfa is where they're going to get their calcium, they're going to get their protein. It's just a very rich food source. They don't need that when they're being dried off. A dry cow should not be getting a lot of rich foods. It makes them fat, and it also makes their babies big and huge, and that can be a problem because come calving time, that can be a big problem. Okay, so we've talked a lot about feed and, you know, just different things and what to look for with a cow, but let's talk about your setup. If you're going to be doing a dairy cow, you need to have a place of shelter. You need to have a stanchion or a place where you're going to milk where it's going to be out of the weather. You're not going to want to be milking when it's downpouring rain, in the rain where it's running off her back and into your bucket. Yeah, not a good idea. Done that. You're going to want to have a shelter for her to be able to get in out of the weather. Depending on what animal you get, there is a breed. I do want to really recommend this one. I've had good success with this. The Belfair. Okay, they're not necessarily a breed in and of themselves. They're a highly sought for cross. They're half Jersey, half Dexter. So they've got the small stature of the Dexter, but they've got the milk of the Jersey. So you're going to be looking at anywhere from, I mean, it just depends on the genetics for your Belfair, but my Belfair, Valentine, she's in some of my videos, she was putting out 6 gallons a day easy. And like one of her quarters would produce 1.5 gallons all by itself. Fantastic cow. And she was so wonderful. I could have little children milking her, and she was wonderful. Her teats were nice and big for hand milking. Yeah, so the Belfair is a fantastic cross. And just, you know, be wise, be careful when you're getting a cow of your very own. You want to make sure you can be around her. Does she startle easy around other animals, around children? Are you able to walk right up to her and pet her? You know, just different things like that. Hey, by the way, don't go scrubbing a cow right here. They actually don't like it all that much, okay? They like it behind their ear, but they don't like your hand going over top like that, okay? They just don't like it. They don't like it. You want to get a cow where they really like it, go around and under their neck. That's where they like it. They want to smell you. So as you bring your hands up around their nose. Yeah, it's slimy, it's gross. Okay, yeah, you're going to get slimed. It's part of having a cow. Let your hand touch their nose. Give them a chance to smell it, even lick it. And then scrub them around their cheek, around their neck, go behind their ears. You know, those are places where they just really want somebody to please get that itch for them. Or in the center of their forehead, there's like a little bump, their pole area, right behind there. They just cannot get that for the life of them. If you scratch that real nice and good for them, they will love you forever. But just please, don't do this. Hi, cow. That scares them. Don't do it. Hey, look into the Belfair. Great dual purpose breed. Produces excellent quality beef. You're looking at a beef cow being ready from the time it's born. Steer would be ready in about 28 months, give or take, depending on what you're feeding it. More grain, they're going to grow out faster. Grass-fed only, they're going to grow out slower. It's up to you how you want to do that. Okay, let's talk about fencing. You've probably seen some of my fencing in some of my other videos. We started off with barbed wire. Don't do that. Cow, it doesn't really help. And cows have a very thick hide. It's just not going to do anything. It's just going to stop you, and it's not going to stop a cow. Electric fence is just the way to go. But not 1 or 2 strands. And then also remember, not up high. I made this mistake. I put electric fence up high because I was so scared of my cows. They were so big. But that's not how cows move. If you watch them, when they walk, their noses are close to the ground because they're looking for grass. If you've got an electric fence up here, they're going to hit it with their body, and then because it hurts, they're going to go right through. They're not going to back away. So if you're going to have an electric fence, have it close to the ground so that they smell it with their nose and they back away. I would recommend your first line of fence, at least to start off with, should be roughly about 8 inches on average from the ground. And then every other line after that, 8 inches each. So depending on how tall your cow is, I would go as high as 4 feet. My cows, I don't have to go any higher than about 3 feet, maybe 3.5 feet. But especially when you're introducing your cow, just start with a tall fence full of 4 lines, 5 lines even, of really strong electric fence. Get yourself a good strong energizer. Make sure that its joules output, stored joules, is at least 6, not 0.6, 6. You want it to really, really hurt. You're not going to hurt the cow so much that she's going to die or anything like that. But I'll tell you what, you touch that thing, you're going to know it. The other interesting thing is that cows can smell that electricity. Generally, they just come up to the fence and they can smell it. It's the same with most other animals. You know, they can smell it. They know it's there. They're just going to test it to see if it really is going to hurt. And then scream when it actually does. But if you've got jumpers, they need to have an electric fence that is going to hurt. That's the only way you're going to keep them from jumping. Your perimeter fence, your very outside fence, 4 or 5 lines of electric, and even just to make yourself feel a little bit better, put some woven wire fence on the outside of that even. Because now you've got the visual barrier as well as the electric, all right? And then check that fence every day for a couple of weeks before you get your cow to make sure that it's actually working. Keep your grounding rods, the dirt that they're in, keep them wet. They will conduct the electricity way better. So when we're kind of in a drought, we've been going for weeks without rain. When I dump out my washing water from washing, the cows, I dump it right on the grounding rod up here by the barn. And that's why I do it, because I want my grounding rod to be nice and wet so that my electric fence will work for my cows. That's important. Fencing is very important. You've got your insulators, and make sure they're good and strong. And a lot of times the plastic yellow ones, they work great. But if you've had a harsh winter, by the next spring they're brittle and they will break, and now your electric fence is touching your T-post or whatever and it's grounding out. My Energizer, if my fence is running at about a 2 or a 3, I know some wood is touching it. If it's running at a 0.1 or a 0.2, I know it's smack dab on top of a T-post somewhere, and I have to walk the fence line to find it. I have a video on my rotational grazing. Check that one out. It'll be very, very helpful. Rather than me trying to explain the whole thing, it's the same as what I have still, because that's been working beautifully for us. So check out that fencing. We talked about shelter. Bedding, I really like to use shavings. It absorbs so much better. It's so much nicer. We use the medium flake shavings. Yes, we go through a lot, but it's so much easier to clean up. And with 6 cows in one stall, we have to clean that stall every week, but that's just the way it is. So I recommend shavings. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's something else. How are you going to know if your cow that you're looking at is healthy? How does their rumen look? How do their hooves look? Okay, if their hooves are curling, stay away. Stay away. Their feet should look really good. Get a vet, not their vet, a vet of your choosing. Make sure you've got a good connection with a livestock vet. Go talk to them. Have them come out to your farm and check through things and see if there's something that has them concerned about you bringing on a cow. Generally, livestock vets love small homesteaders. I know mine does. He prefers my farm to the big commercial ones that he has to go to. He loves my farm, even though my farm's ugly. Because these animals get so much more care and love than the big commercial farms do. And so these livestock vets, they love small homesteaders. Have a livestock vet come out and just give you an education. It's so worth it. Plus then, when you do have an emergency, that vet knows you. Have them come out when you are ready to buy a cow. Have them go test that cow for you. And then give you an answer as to, yes, I think this cow is good. No, I think you better stay away. They may know something about that farm that the person you're buying from doesn't want you to know. Because farms do develop a reputation around, communities. So, yeah, find yourself a livestock vet. Cows are pregnant, 9 months. I know I'm bullet throwing stuff at you like crazy. Cows are pregnant 9 months. They need about 2 months dry off before they calve, and then wait for about 2 or 3 months before you breed them again after they have a calf. You can wait longer, but it's just, cows in heat can be dangerous. So it's just way easier to make sure that they're pregnant and everything calms down. Life is so much calmer on the farm when your cows are bred and in milk, and life is good. All right, so breeds, we talked about breeds. I like the Dexters for beef. I like the Jerseys for milk. The smaller Jerseys don't need as much food. They don't need as much land, but they're also not going to produce as much milk, which for you at the very beginning may be perfect. How long do you want to sit there hand milking? Do you want to be hand milking 5 gallons at a time, twice a day? Probably not. Maybe a gallon. So a small Jersey, Belfair, be fantastic. With a calf on. If you can do calf sharing, I'm gonna make myself really unpopular. I don't like calf sharing. I'm sorry. I know. That's so unpopular to say. I don't like calf sharing. We will leave the baby on the mom for 4 weeks, 24/7, and we will milk twice a day. We do not take breaks because we've done that in the past and we've had mastitis show up. And I think a lot of that is just from the irregularity of the baby not nursing as completely, you know, all of the milk out of the mom, and then we come out and milk everything out, but we're milking out milk that's been sitting there for a while. Because every time the baby's gonna nurse, mom's gonna let down in all 4 quarters. And if baby only needs the milk from 1 quarter, those 3 are sitting, putrefying, creating a bacterial environment for mastitis to set in. Then I milk her out in the evening, and that's great. But that's still not going to be good enough. So I don't like to do the calf sharing thing. I've just, maybe with a Belfair that doesn't produce as much milk, so the baby is going to go to all 4 quarters and milk mom out completely, that's great. But I don't like it on my jerseys. And I've seen the babies, you know, cause bruising in the udder and bite marks on the teats. I don't like calf sharing. So, sorry guys, I just don't. I've done it and I've fought with it. We've had some success, but I've also seen some awful stuff too. So I'm just not gonna do that. And it's your call. If you've got a high producer though, baby's not gonna start drinking more than a gallon until, you know, the baby's about 4, 5, 6 weeks old. So up until then, mom's producing a ton of milk and isn't getting any relief. And part of that's from her genetics. If she's coming from a commercial dairy, she's been bred to feed way more than her calf could ever want. If you've got a low producer, you know, calf sharing may be great, but she also may hold her milk back from you to save it for her baby. That's just one of the things about calf sharing. Mama cow doesn't want you to have her milk. She wants her baby to have her milk. And she knows she doesn't have enough for both. So she's going to hold it back. Yes, they can do that. So then you've got that lovely fight. I prefer leave the baby on for 4 weeks. I milk twice a day, regardless. And sometimes I don't get very much milk from that mom, and I know that. But at 4 weeks, I take the baby away completely. And then I bottle feed that baby. Baby's gets comfortable with me, and mom gets the routine, and she gets the udder care, and the teats are being cared for, and she gets into a much healthier routine for her. So we talked about a little bit of the anatomy of cows. You have, you know, for a dairy cow, you're looking at the udder. It is not udders. She has 1 udder made up of 4 quarters. Each quarter is independent of the others, which means you could have mastitis in 1 quarter and the other 3 are just fine. You also have the potential of the bacteria spreading from 1 quarter to the other because of the calf nursing from 1 quarter to the other. Okay, so there's the possibility of transference of bacteria that way. So we talked about that a little bit. And I know there's videos on how we test for mastitis. You'll notice the mastitis probably before any test will. The milk will just take on a different flavor. It'll be a little saltier. That's a sure sign of mastitis. However, right after she has a calf, it's going to taste salty anyway for the first 2 weeks because she's still going through that colostrum. And all that edema from the swelling around her bag has to go down, and it's going to get into that milk. All that is edema. That's all it is. It does not mean she's sick. If her udder is looking red and hot and lumpy, and you've got clumps, okay, now you've got a real case of mastitis. If it's just a little salty, rub the Dynamint on her. I've got some natural methods for treating mastitis. I use apple cider vinegar in their feed, along with some garlic oil in their feed and some crushed up vitamin C in their feed, and then vitamin E in their feed. And then when I'm done milking them, I will rub some Dynamint in my hands, along with a little bit of lavender, tea tree, and a little bit of garlic. And then I will rub that all over that udder, that quarter. Not on the teats, just on the udder, the quarter. Okay, and I'll do that every single time I milk her. If you suspect mastitis, you have to milk her twice a day at least. That's very, very important. Whether you're calf sharing or not, you have to, because you've got to keep that udder, that quarter, flushed out. And you may beat it and still have signs of clumps and just grossness for 5 or 6 weeks afterwards. It's just flushing it all out of her system. It will pass. Okay, so we've pretty much gone over some of those other anatomy things regarding the udder. I'm trying to think. If you've got other questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see if I can either do another follow-up video or, you know, answer some questions on that. So wow, it sounds like there's a lot that goes into having a cow. Yeah, there is. But eventually it becomes second nature. I don't think about all of these things every single day. I mean, it's like having kids. There's a lot that goes into having kids. But, you know, once you do it for a while, you stop thinking about how much is involved. You start to realize, oh, well, it's just second nature now. Well, it's the same with having a cow. It becomes second nature, and you stop thinking about it, and, you know, you're just enjoying your time with... These mamas are not very happy with me being up real close and personal with their babies. I just enjoy hanging out with my cows now, when they're being good, of course. And you know, it's a fun lifestyle. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love milking my cows. I love the milk that they give me. I love the personalities of my girls. And, you know, the ones whose personalities don't match, they're not here. I sold them. But before I bought them, I tested them. You know, you can totally expect a cow to need an adjustment period getting used to you, just like you need to get adjusted to her. There's going to be an adjustment for both of you. So I would definitely not recommend getting a cow that is in milk. Get a cow that's, you know, 3 or 4 months away from having a calf, so that she's got some time to get to know you. You've got some time to get to know her. She trusts you. And then about a month or 2 before she's having her calf, start training her in the stanchion. Don't milk her. Don't do that. But start bringing her into the stanchion and giving her treats and brush her, love her, and just help her to know that everything that involves you means good things. Start developing a call. My girls know my voice, and when I call them, they're in a hurry to get back to the barn because they know anytime I call them, good things happen. And that's what I want my girls to know. Develop a call that your cows recognize as you. Eventually they'll come because they know that you're going to lead them to new pasture, or that you've just filled up their water bucket for them, or that you've got treats, or that you're going to finally let them into the stall now that it's clean. Regardless, whatever it is with that call always is good. I've had my cows get out and run down the road. When they hear my voice calling them, they run to me from wherever they are because they want to be home. They don't want to be out and loose and scared. They want to be home. You know, that grass was greener on the other side fence thing was only good for a little bit, and then it scared them. So, you know, just make a call that your cows know that they can trust. And that little girl back there is Valentine's daughter, and she's due for her very first calf in March. We've already been training her to the stanchion. She comes into the stanchion and we'll mess with her udder, we'll pet her and get her used to our hands, our touch. She's already totally comfortable with that. That's just how we train. It's okay, it's just what we do. I'm hoping that this video was helpful. I'm not saying for sure that those are the breeds that you have to get as far as a family milk cow. I know that the Jerseys are the most common. They tend to be smaller, and but Jerseys can have a personality. There's something known as the Jersey flop. If you look up the Jersey flop, it's a real thing, and it's hilarious. And the Jerseys do act as though they have just died. They've had a heart attack, eyes rolled back in their head, they're gonna die. And then you walk away and they pop right back up and they're just happy. The Jersey flop is real, you know, and it's real dramatic. They're drama queens, but I really love them. Hey, if you haven't yet, subscribe. That way you can keep up to date with everything that's happening. And hit a like, leave me a comment. You know, that way I can keep touch with my viewers and find out what topics you guys are interested in. See if we can get them covered. And then, yeah, keep me posted on what's going on with y'all. Okay, happy farming, everybody.